If you've ever tried to give up or cut back on alcohol, you'll know that socialising can be a minefield of temptation and peer pressure. Now there's a new group for people who want to have fun but stay sober, and they're hoping to spark a discussion about whether Australia is too reliant on alcohol as a social lubricant. Michael Atkin reports.
So usually on a Sunday I would have been in bed in an absolute world of pain. Today we're catching up for a coffee and then we're going to go and play putt-putt with the group. So yeah, it's very different.
Faye Lawrence is seizing the day, something the former alcoholic rarely used to do. She's been sober for 19 months, but when Faye first quit, she was worried her social life was over.
One of the things that kept me sort of locked in drinking, I suppose, for a long time was the fact that I couldn't imagine my life without alcohol socially.
This is my life, I don't live it once.
Her solution was to create her own booze-free social club in Brisbane called Untoxicated.
You can have fun being sober. Like, I refuse to accept that society says that, you know, you're boring now that you don't drink. So I thought, no, let's smash a few perceptions out there.
Saying he's coming?
Glenn just rang me before.
Oh.
He was just saying if there was any spots. And
Oh,
I
he
said,
can just turn up.
I said to him, just turn up.
Yeah, just turn up.
Just said there's a late fee.
Since joining in January, Lee Anderson has become a regular. Lee was tired of catch-ups with mates revolving around drinking.
Most males, when we go out, we don't really catch up for a morning tea or a coffee. That male bonding has always been around alcohol, you know, through football, whatever. So I suppose that's just changed it for me in the group.
This lady said she doesn't.
Untoxicated is not just for problem drinkers.
People who might just be having a break from alcohol, they might be trying to cut back, they might not drink for religious reasons, for example. They may have grown up with a parent that was an alcoholic.
It's $10 a hole.
The group is growing quickly with more than 1,100 members and holds weekly events. Today, Faye is getting them pumped up for mini golf.
Let's get competitive. I've got a number of you that I absolutely want to smash on the, on the golf course.
Across Australia, men are our heaviest drinkers, but women are catching up, and more in their 40s and 50s are drinking at risky levels. Data from the Institute of Health and Welfare shows demand for treatment for alcohol abuse is increasing substantially. Some of the biggest spikes are for women aged between 30 and 60.
With more women drinking more, we're obviously starting to see that filter through into people who are coming into treatment.
Amongst the golfers is Helen Pichak, who only recently sought treatment for the first time. Helen was a secret drinker, stashing wine around her house, getting drunk without her family knowing.
So they got used to me being this bubbly person, but I was always drunk. And that's all I knew how to do. I had family and I did the basics like cooking, but everything else dropped off. Yeah, and I basically did nothing but drink.
After going to rehab, Helen realised social isolation was worsening her addiction. Now the group is helping with her recovery.
There's no judgment. They do fun things. People are there usually as singles, so you don't feel self-conscious about being alone.
Faye considered herself a high-functioning drinker, running a successful small business, studying and raising kids.
I'm 45 now. I started drinking probably when I was about 15. I've got alcoholism on both sides of my family, so heavy drinking was the norm for me. The quick way to access stress relief is to open a bottle of wine when you get home, and then before you know it, the whole bottle's gone. But at the end, I was knocking off a lot more than that.
In 2017, she admitted she needed help, entering this hospital detox ward for treatment.
Was really humbling. It was quite distressing for me as well. And it was a turning point.
It's that warm, cuddly blanket that takes it all away. But of course, effectively what you're doing is borrowing happiness from tomorrow, and then you have to pay back the interest. How are we doing? Yeah, he's all right.
Dr. Mark Daglish runs the withdrawal service at Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital. 80% of people come here because of alcohol addiction, and once they leave, the number that stay sober after a year is small.
We say that it's often about 20% of the year who are still in recovery, but I think that sounds more pessimistic than it needs to, because people are often in a better space, and like I said, you're seed planting for, well, maybe next time you can learn from what happened.
Oh, hang on.
I think there's a lot of people, suffering in silence, I guess, that are drinking more than they should, or need some help at whatever level, or just want to change their lifestyle, and maybe just give them an option to try something different.
It's a very powerful message. So to have a support group that says, actually, no, this is normal behaviour. You're not abnormal if you don't drink, and there's not something wrong with you if you don't drink.
Too as well.
Faye believes her group is helping to change the way we think about sobriety in Australia.
I think the need's there. I think it's flipping sobriety on its head. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom and sobriety is hard. Yes, it is, but it doesn't have to all be hard. You can still have fun. You get to choose.
Oh, well done.